Hey guys, so today we are answering a subscriber question, and the question in question was, Frederick, is the hatred for JavaScript really only, is that just a symptom of people being jealous of its success? So let's get into it. Well, that is a very oddly specific question, but I will give you my take on things. I don't think so, honestly. I don't think well, in some cases it might be the case, but I don't actually think that it has to do with the jealousy of JavaScript's success. I think it has to, it's a two-part thing for me. One part is that which is the big part, I think, is that it is hated because of legacy reasons. You see, the people who usually tend to flame JavaScript the most complain about JavaScript from the perspective of because it used to be the case that, I mean, if you've been working for more than 10 years and you've been doing JavaScript for more than 10 years, you will remember that back in the day it was not a nice experience. I mean, jQuery became this massive success back in the day for a very good reason, because at the time the standards were absolutely horrible. I don't think anybody's going to deny that, but today is a different world. But a lot of that hatred and pain, I mean, it kind of still lingers on, and it gets inherited from senior to junior, where you have a senior who heard from another senior who used to do some JavaScript that, yeah, it's a really shitty language, and they're good friends. So that person now, of course, repeats that to their junior, and that junior grows to be a senior, and then that person repeats it. It's you know, inheriting other people's opinions isn't a new concept. You can have a look at, well, no, I'm not going to say more than that, but tradition and inheriting your parents or your senior's opinion is a very big problem in human society. But that's honestly why that's the big part for me. The second part, I would say, is that people don't really understand. Like, they judge the language by using another language as a reference, but that language in of itself is not solving the same sort of problem as JavaScript is solving. A classic one is that you have a lot of C and C++ developers who hate on this language because it's a toy language. It's not the same, you know, it's not a real language. It has all these issues. It's how and all this good stuff, right? But if you are a C++ developer and you look at JavaScript from the perspective of a C++ developer, then it's like apples and oranges. It's a completely different use case. It has the needs and the requirements on C++ and the sort of development that you do at a system levels language, in a system levels language. I mean, it's a completely different experience. And the same thing goes for, okay, you're a Java developer and you don't like JavaScript. Once again, the use case for Java is very different from the intended use case of JavaScript. Now, if you are a PHP developer, you're probably also very accustomed to people bashing and hating on your language, but I think that you're like the hatred between PHP and JavaScript, like that rivalry, isn't as strong because you're starting to understand the values in scripting languages, and you start to understand, like, you're more accustomed to working in that sort of setting, and you have a much more similar situation when it comes to solving your problems. So that's honestly what I think is the other part of it. You just have this really weird comparison between a language that is designed to do something completely different and a language that, and then you compare that to JavaScript. I mean, Java tried to be a web language. It completely failed. It failed enormously. So apparently it wasn't possible to, I mean, once again, we don't expect Java to have the same sort of experience and benefits that JavaScript has in the same context. I mean, let's reverse it. Why aren't the JavaScript people like bashing Java for being so completely ridiculously bad at web development? They tried to be it. I mean, Java tried to be a web language. It failed completely. Weird, but there's no one's really having that discussion, right? So for me, it's as I said, I don't think it has to do with jealousy necessarily. I think it has more to do with legacy reasons and people making a very weird comparison. To me, it is odd. I honestly, I think it's odd, and personally, I think it has more to do with emotions than it has to do with anything else. It is an emotional thing. People don't like the language because it doesn't fulfill what they perceive to be their use case, or it doesn't give them what they need. And I mean, it doesn't help, of course, that for a lot of people who are new to the language or unaccustomed to how to work within JavaScript, it's a bit of unforgiving, actually. It's always something that I found very funny, that a lot of people treat JavaScript as this toy language, when in reality they should treat it with even more respect than most other languages, because it is that unforgiving. If you treat it as a toy language, it will fuck up your code severely. That is also true for C++, but in one context you are a cool programmer because you understand how the quirks of C++, and in the other context you're just working in a bad language. But hey, that's the way the world works, right? So what I want you to take away from this is that I don't think it has to do with a jealousy type of thing when we think about, or rather when we consider why people don't like JavaScript. I think it has to do with a culture thing. It used to be a really bad language, and it was absolutely horrible. And it's changed since then, but we still have that smudge to kind of rub away, and it's getting better, at least from my perspective. And the other part is that some people make these weird comparisons where they compare a language that is designed for something completely different, a completely different use case, with JavaScript, and they judge it based on that. It's very weird. You wouldn't, I mean, for me, it's like asking a sumo wrestler to be compared to a 60 meter, like a sprinter, like a runner or something like that. Yeah, sure, if you're going to run, then the runner's going to win. But if you're going to go into wrestling, well, the sumo wrestler is probably going to be better off. Apples and oranges in my world. But that's just me, of course. And lastly, I think that whenever you hear people kind of bash talk, it doesn't have to be JavaScript. There's quite a few of these languages people like to hate on. Usually it is an emotional thing, and you will very often find that the people who hate on, like, the most overt haters, and the people who really are like very verbal with their hatred for another language, they're usually the sort of people who, like, they can't use it. And that, you know, this might just be me, but I think it's kind of, you know, if you're going to dismiss something, start by being pretty good at it and understanding that, yeah, this is not a good experience, but if you don't know how to use it, then shut up. Have a great day.